I had my architect, software architect, very, very bright, said, Ariel, let's go raise money for this. Let's do a startup. And my twins were 2 years old, and I was afraid. I was afraid to go out on my own and raise money and take all the risk because I had a nice salary. I worked at a great company, medical insurance, dental insurance, blah, blah, blah. And that's why we failed. Because if you don't separate it, you fail. Now, Christensen knows that he goes to all these companies and he tells them to do that, and they will not do that. They just will not do that. And what they will do is eventually they will try to buy some company that's big enough if their stock is worth enough, if they have enough cash value that they can buy that company. But most acquisitions fail. For startups, the important thing, just ignore the big companies. Just ignore the big companies. Don't pay attention to them. It's a waste of time. Find a niche, go into that niche, build a business, try to grow it, try to become dominant. If somewhere along the cycle, a big company wants to buy you and give you their channel and so on to grow, and the risk is lower and you can achieve your dream in a better way, you may weigh that acquisition. But most acquisitions fail. So if you look at Cisco, who are better than others, if you look even at Google, I don't know, there are many acquisitions, they just fail. Especially if they have a real business. So if if you fail, if you don't grow fast enough, somebody may buy you for your technology, but you're not going to get a lot for that. And many times it will compromise your dream. Right? So if you think of WhatsApp, why did they leave? Because there was an agreement that there would be no sale of user information and no advertising. Actually, Facebook agreed that there would not be any business model, but it doesn't make sense. Right? You need a business model, especially if your mainline business is suffering. So you're right. Now, if you think about,
are they changing that now?
apparently they're changing. But if you think of academic, a very interesting idea. What is happening today is kind of half-hearted. Right? So edX, eventually universities, if they're really serious on a new model of teaching or learning and leveraging technology, then the Coursera's and Udacities and edX are going to eat away. And why have a mediocre lecture to 50 students if you can have a rock star lecturing to 1 million students? Now, the big problem has not been solved there, right? Many people are dropping out, they don't complete. If you can solve that, you've got it out, the basic model of academic education is gone. And that sounds scary, but whoever will do it first and do it properly is probably going to be a big winner. We can talk about that separately.
I was reading, I know it's a pop book, but someone bought me Yuval Noah Harari's book. So he was talking about medicine and AI.
Mm-hmm.
So he said, in AI will, in Africa, you'll be able to provide much more medicine to many more people with much more data. So big data, many more people will be healthy than previously. But there will be the individuals who won't get the right treatment because you need a doctor's sensitivity.
Yeah.
So I think the question with the university would be, if you're trying to cultivate cutting edge, really smart people, can you do that when you do it on a big data level, on the same way that you do it at an individual level?
Else. But you could take all the mediocre lectures, and they could do discussion sections. Okay, and that, in my opinion, maybe that's a solution for that. Okay, but anyway, we're not here to solve that problem. The key things to take out of this, and this is really, really, really important. First of all, aim really big, like Jeff Bezos, I'm going to be the biggest retailer, because that will help you kind of pull yourself out of the rut. Second thing, think of the technology curve that you're riding and think of scale. You don't want to do scale in the beginning, but you need to think of scale. Because technology curves that goes like this, and like AI is going like this today, is extremely, extremely powerful, and if you're not riding that, you're just left behind on the heap of history. And the most important thing is the target market. Now, which market segment you start, that you could get a good enough solution, good enough, not the best, that is completely or almost completely ignored by the big companies. And don't go to big companies. Don't go to a big company and offer some sustaining innovation. Nobody buys. It's really, it's very, very difficult. Okay, do something that is really disruptive. When you will start looking disruptive, all the big companies will come and want to buy you. Then you have to think if you want to be sold or if you want to take the risk of really making this business grow. Most Israeli startups, they won't sell. Okay, that's fine. Anything is fine. The learning comes afterwards. Yeah.
Cool question. So based on what you said, it would sort of say like, don't try to do the platform company. When does the platform
it
make
depends.
sense? So when does it make sense?
When the market is unserved. So if you are a collector of all kinds of knickknacks, okay? I mean, you like these, you remember these Pez dispensers, right? And you want to make a collection, right? Because there are many of them. You want to collect, I don't know, when we were kids, we were collecting napkins, shit like that.
Baseball cards.
Baseball cards. So, and it's the age of internet, and it's, I don't know, 1995, 1994, something like that. The cost of creating a platform is really low. You don't have a lot of, everybody knows everybody, there are very few customers, they're all geeks, they all tell each other. I remember the first day that I saw Yahoo. Before Yahoo, there was something called What's New at the NCSA. Mark Andreessen was running this out of the University of Illinois. And it was a listing of websites. There were maybe 200, 400. Every day I would go and look. And one day I see Yahoo. I said, oh, what's this? Oh, that's really cool. It's a directory. They have more color, and they have a nice logo. So, and one day eBay pops up. eBay pops up because the founder's girlfriend was collecting these Pez candy dispensers. And I said, well, the cost of serving these kinds of transactions, creating a market is really very cheap. So I think there is actually a difference between a platform and a market, but a market could be a good idea, might be a good idea, if you're serving people who don't have access otherwise, and that's how Craigslist came. And you need to keep it simple. A platform is usually not a good idea, because if you want to be a platform to many, many services and you have nothing of value but the platform, you have no customers. If you have no customers, you can't pull other companies to sit on your platform.
What about like a hardware platform?
Well, there are many platforms, so let's think, how did Apple succeed as a platform for apps? The iPhone comes out, I think it was with the iPhone, maybe it was even in the first iPod. It comes out and they have a few apps of their own. There was no app store. And a guy by the name of George Hotz, a young hacker, actually breaks in and shows how he can create his own app and insert it into the phone. The gut reaction of a company like Apple should have been, we sue the guy, we put him in jail, we don't allow this to happen. But somebody said, gee, what if we actually create a platform so everybody can do it? But they already had the sale of this device and they had a few applications. Another type of platform is an operating system. So when Microsoft came out, IBM did this stupid thing with the PC. And the PC was not smart. It was smart not for IBM, but it was smart for Intel and Microsoft. But initially, all Microsoft got is a fee for every computer that had DOS, the operating system. To actually create a platform out of DOS and later Windows, they needed applications. So they came with Microsoft Office. Okay, Microsoft Office was the first set of applications, and then they opened up to anything else. The same thing happened with Intel. The original Intel 8086 had no peripherals. There was only the Intel chip. and it had a really bad instruction set. Motorola was much better, and Intel was really, they didn't know what to do. So they created data sheets. They had data sheets for products that didn't exist, they just thought them up, and they sold the microprocessor on that, and then they created that, and then they created the motherboard, and then everybody created other chips that could plug into that instruction set and that motherboard. But it's a very risky thing. I know quite a few companies that failed in the platform because you do a platform and a set of applications, it's a big job just to get the market moving. You could do a platform. Another way to do a platform is what Linux did, free. People adopt it and so on. And then your business is not really the platform, your business is supporting the platform.
Right.
It's Red Hat and other companies that do that. But, so again, the learnings from this, so this is the second lecture, which is really about think disruptive innovation. You don't want to do sustaining innovation. If your idea is to improve something by 20% for some kind of product or business that exists today, go work for that company, maybe they'll allow you to do that. Don't try to be a startup that does a 20% improvement. You want to improve something by 10x, by 100x. How do you improve something by 10 or 100x? You go to customers that have 0. Okay? And anything above 0 is infinitely better. And that's how you start.
How do you measure the improvement?
So let's think about it. If you're standing in New York City,
Yeah.
okay, in 10th Street, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and you try to get a taxi and it takes you 52 minutes, but today an Uber or Lyft car will come to you within 3 minutes, then the improvement is probably about 20x.
No doubt of it. I asked because my question was not really how do you measure it. Because what I meant and what I'm aiming to is that sometimes a very small change can make a revolution, something that will help you to grip something better, something that you don't have to push 2 buttons, you have to push just 1 button. That sometimes small improvements make big change.
That's, I think, mostly that is sustaining innovation. That's what big companies do, and today there are many tricks. So you have been a subject of many, many, many experiments that Amazon does and Google does. They're called A/B tests. It's happening all the time. And things improve that way, and eventually the experience becomes a lot better. But, so let's say if you look at the toaster business, okay? So there are 4 buttons on a toaster, or 2 buttons on a toaster, and it's hard to clean it and stuff like that. And let's say you're able to, conceivable, talk to the toaster. Okay, and you drop a piece of bread and you say, I want my usual. And you don't press any button at all.
Yeah.
Is this a good business?
Yeah.
Probably not. Probably not. It's not going to go grow leaps and
It is a
bounds.
business.
Not a very good business.
I don't know, but it is a business, that's for sure.
Yeah, but not a disruptive business. Now, let me give you a disruptive business. If you're a woman in 1930 and you have babies, people have a lot of babies then, and you have to wash diapers, it's a pretty shitty thing to do.
Yeah.
Okay, you need to boil the water, you have a big vat, do this, you put a lot of hours into that. And one day, you see an ad or somebody tells you about a washing machine. It's not that good actually. It doesn't clean everything really, really well. But you just put stuff in and you're liberated.
Yeah.
This is the big thing for women liberation has been the washing machine. How much better is that? It's almost infinitely better. It allows you to have a different life. You can have a career because you don't need to wash shitty diapers any longer.
I thought you were talking about diapers.
Diapers also an important, but it's not as big as the washing machine.
And diapers.
Not if you have to change it every day.
I feel like there's a piece missing here that, the word agency. That the way that you're describing it, all these people knew in advance what was going to happen.
Of course not.
And I think the way that we understand technology today is that usually the most, let's say, the role of birth control in the women's liberation movement, or stuff like that.
No,
where
they didn't know. People did not know.
So all these people, I don't think they knew. So, and so when you're talking to people who are trying to innovate, it's very hard for them to think about what is going to be the long-term effect.
So I think there are two parts of that. One is there are unanticipated or unplanned consequences, which might be negative or maybe positive. It's impossible to know them, but you could probably plan with some forethought. You can plan a little better and at least reduce some of the negative consequences that you know are not intentional. But I think, I mean, if you look from what I know about the history of Facebook, which is what you guys know, so undergraduates at Harvard are driven by hormones and drinking, right? I mean, that's what the population is like. It's only the graduate students who really are serious. The undergraduate, they're really, really smart, and they party all the time. And he's a young undergraduate, and he's a hacker, and he gets into the computers, and he takes all the girls' pictures, you know, the female students, and he does something really ugly, right? I mean, he invites his guys to vote for who is the best looking and sexiest and so on. And that's what drives him. And then he sees that, you know, everybody signs up, like, immediately. And he says, well, you know, there are other females in other departments, not just in computer science. Right? So he opens it up. And within a day, like, everybody's there. Okay, and then he opens it up for the whole school, and within a day, everybody's signed up. Now, the guy is sufficiently smart, very smart. He says, no, there's something here. So he goes to Silicon Valley and gets the guy from Napster to invest money in Peter Thiel to put some money. His real genius, actually, I think, was opening up, making it exclusive, making it an elite, retaining the elite nature of this thing, because MySpace already existed. It had hundreds of millions of people, and it was not elite. It was like everybody. You had Hispanics, you had blacks, you know, it's not Ivy League. So he kind of made it a very exclusive and very desirable service for the elite, and everybody wants to connect to the elite. That's and supposedly the purpose of Facebook is connect everybody, right? Something, that's the message of Facebook. We connect everybody in the world. For what purpose? To make money advertising. There is no purpose, in my opinion, in Facebook. And that's where the unintended consequences come in, because they can't measure what they're doing against anything. And, you know, Facebook may be unsolvable. Maybe it's unfixable. You know, maybe it's so rotten to the core that you can't even do anything. I don't know. I would not try to fix it. But I think it's a big, big problem. And big companies have these kinds of problems, right? Unintended consequences you don't really know. Probably cigarette companies didn't know in the very beginning that tobacco was so terrible for people. And watch companies didn't know that you know, making the hour and second clock shine at night. Remember the old watches, your parents' watches? So these watches were made in Switzerland, and they had young women who painted this thing with radium, I think. So it was you know, the thing is actually radioactive. And if you remember when you were kids, painting with gouache, you know, with watercolor, with a very thin brush, how do you make the brush really pointy? You put it like this into your mouth, right? Well, they died from cancer, you know, of the tongue, because they got radiated every day, many times a day. So you don't know these things.
So I'm seeing the opposite way. In other words, the people, it seems to me the people who are really successful are these unusual people who figured out the agency of the technology in a way that most of us aren't capable of doing.
So I think what Steve Jobs and Zuckerberg and definitely the Google founders, what they really understood, that many of us should have understood, that I should have understood and did not think about it. I was in the middle of the semiconductor industry. It's just going like this forever. It's still going to go like this. You know, Moore's law is not dead. Moore's law is going to continue not with physics, but with new architectures. It still has life for years.
Yeah, but we don't know that for sure.
We know that for
Because tomorrow something new that will change, I don't know, something which is
something new.
miracle.
Yeah, no miracles. There are no miracles. Takes many, many, many years. Semiconductor, the field effect transistor was discovered in the 1940s. Okay, Intel started in 72 or something like that. The precursor company was Fairchild, started in 58. It takes many, many, many years.
Yeah, that's for sure, but we don't know where on the curve it stays.
You will
Because on the
see it.
PLC, you don't know where it is, whether it's on maturity or whether it's dying and you don't know.
You know if you open your eyes. But most people are stuck in their business, they don't open their eyes. But for you as an entrepreneur, that's not your problem. Your problem is how do you start something and stay alive long enough that you can thrive. And riding on the fact, I think the biggest thing that's happening is the marginal cost of insight from data is zero or negative. And let me explain what I mean by that. Marginal cost is what it costs you to do the next act. It's not the investment you make, it's the cost of the next thing, the thing you sell. And if you think about Facebook today, we all give them a lot of data. Right? They get paid by advertisers. And the more data they have, the more usage they have, the more insight they can get for some new service or some new feature. It doesn't cost them anything. They're paid to do that. That's a new type of company. And that thing, we're in the very, very beginning of artificial intelligence and machine learning and deep learning. It's very early time. This is like, if computing started in 1950s, with machine learning, we're like in the 1950s today. You have, ask God. God is an expert in this. You have decades of unimaginable growth. Okay?
There's no doubt of it. I'm not doubting it for sure.
What you need is just, you need to think 15 years and work on the next 2 years. So obviously, that's something you can write on. Don't worry about the rest. Okay? No need to worry, There are big movements that happen, and we tend, I've been in the semiconductor industry from 1977. I started working in tools for developing chips in 81, something like that. In 81, you know what people were saying? Moore's law is going to die very soon. And in 1990, there was this guy, I forget his name, he was an analyst at Gartner or one of those places. And he used to come to all the semiconductor companies and all the companies serving semiconductor, and he used to say, transistors are free, which was right, don't optimize the number of transistors. And he said, but Moore's law is going to die. Why? Because in lithography, the feature size is so small, you cannot use visible wavelength, you have to use X-ray. X-ray has a lot of energy, it's going to create problems with the images. And you know what happened? With X-ray, it was just fine. Then the feature size went even smaller. You had to use electron beam. Can't use electron beam. That's going to create a lot of problems. The problems were solvable. And now it's going down to 5 nanoseconds. Everybody says, maybe it will break. But the architectures that we used were so sloppy because we knew that every 18 months things improves. But now we have all this slop that we can fix in the next decade, 2 decades. There is still huge amount of exponential growth there, huge. So that's something to ride.
I feel like you were in the middle of a sentence and you stopped. You were saying what these guys understand, Steve Jobs, the guys from Google, and then what was the end of the sentence?
I think they understood this, the curve they're riding on. That's one thing they understood. I think the other thing they understood is something that entrepreneurs, politicians, and big criminals understand. And that is that if you have the will, you could actually change life in a huge way. Because most of us think that the law of gravitation and the law of not to drive in a red light are the same thing. Well, they're not. The law of gravitation you can do nothing about. But the second law of thermodynamics you can't do anything about. But you can choose to drive through a red light. And if somebody talks to you, kill them. Okay? What did Trump say? You know, you remember what Trump said in his campaign? He said something so true. Trump understands you can change the world with complete impunity. He said, I can stand on Fifth Avenue and kill a person and nothing will change. People will elect me. He was absolutely right. Okay? Steve Jobs said, you know, the moment you understand that you can poke life like this and something comes out here, you say, wow, this is like Lego, right? I mean, I can actually mold this thing. I can change this thing. Most people think that, you know, today is just like yesterday and tomorrow is going to be like today and there's nothing I can do about it. You know? So I need to be nice, pay my taxes, go to school, get a job, have kids, go to work, satisfy my boss. That's life, right?
Check in and check
Well, that's
out.
not life. Yeah. And some people change the bloody thing. That's what those guys do. That's what the Google guys do. And that's what entrepreneurs have to, at least, I think, strive to do because it's really hard. So if you don't aim high, it's very, very hard to do that. But again, aim high. Next week is or this Thursday, we have a discussion on beachhead. The beachhead, where you start, is really, really, really critical. Where you start is the most important thing. And don't try to do something to sell to IBM. Don't try to do something to sell to Google. Don't start a company in order for it to be acquired by Cisco. These things might happen. Don't do it. You know, what you want to do is small or big. You want to poke life and something will pop up. And you have the ability to do that because nothing is perfect. There's so many things that are really quite crappy. So there are huge opportunities. So thank you. Why don't we stay here, the people from Vulcani? Because there are 4 or 5 of you now, and we don't have enough room downstairs, so we should have a discussion here. Toda רבה.